a lot of roses here, and I was gonna make some arrangements for my house, show you the varieties that we have, and then answer some questions. And I don't know how long I can make this video because I'm not sure how long Facebook allows, so I may have to break it up into multiple posts, but here we go. So I've got a ton of roses here, and I think I'll go over like all the varieties that I have so you can just see what they look like. I did want to show you something really quickly before we get started. So I just got these yesterday, and look at how tiny. And then this is the same rose that I've had out for 14 days. It's Ashley. So pretty cool, very big. I think I'm gonna move the camera a little bit closer so that I can show you the varieties a little easier. I think that would be good. Okay. So yeah, so I've had this vase here for a couple of weeks, and as you can tell, like some of the roses are absolutely ready to go. Like they just are, no. But they open up really pretty. I'm gonna stick this one in the sink. It's definitely dead. So here it is, like as I got it, and this is what it opens up to. And this rose is over 2 weeks old, and look at it. It's like rock solid. So this is one we offer as a cut rose on our website, and then we also offer as plants. It's Ashley by Tao, and it's truly like one of my favorite cuts. It's so beautiful. It's like a perfect, absolutely perfect rose. It has very, very light fragrance though. So for those of you that love fragrance, sorry. There are other roses that have great fragrance. That is not one of them. It's very, very light. Okay, so I have this antique breadboard here because my range is here. We have a very outdated 2000 kitchen, and we're gonna be redoing it in the next year or so, but we're gonna be knocking out like our 3-car garage and our mudroom and our laundry room to make this like a massive kitchen and like floral designing room a part of it. And then we'll build like a new 3-car garage carriage house. So we have to save some more money before we can do that, because it's not just like a simple kitchen renovation. And then we're gonna like, my breakfast nook is over there, and we're gonna open it up to our great room. So it's a lot. So for right now, I have my beautiful breadboard covering my 2000s Viking range that doesn't work very well. We have like 3 burners that work. And this is actually the 3rd Viking stovetop or range that I've had that sucks. So I won't be getting another. I didn't buy this though. Anyway, yes. Okay, so obviously I'm gonna get a Lacanche because they're pretty. Okay, so let's show you some roses. I have some brand new roses that are brand new, and it's Bessie. So this is a rose that David Austin has been trialing for a little bit as a cut. It is so pretty open. I'll show you what it looks like in a couple days. Very, very light fragrance because it lasts forever. And I'm gonna put these around my house so you'll get to see. Now, one of the most popular questions I get is, why can't I grow David Austin cut wedding roses? These are the cut wedding roses. They have the little tag. Juliet, Kira, Patience, Lenora, Beatrice, Edith, Constance, Bessie, Tess, Darcy, Capability, Effie, I miss Purity. I'm missing a couple. So this is always asked. The people say like, oh, I want to grow Juliet. I want to grow Juliet in my garden. I want to grow Constance. Speaking of, here's Constance right here. So David Austin, we work closely with David Austin, and they have 2 lines of roses. So they have David Austin garden roses, and garden roses are the type that you can buy online and in a nursery, and you can grow them in your backyard. They were bred for outdoor home gardeners, and they make beautiful garden roses, right? Like they are your quintessential English garden, beautiful garden rose. And they are hybrids of older roses that they have modernized and bred to be modern roses, and they're beautiful. And then David Austin has another line of business. They have 2 lines of business. Their other line of business is cut wedding roses. They call them David Austin cut roses, luxury cut roses, I don't know, but they're wedding roses. And the wedding roses, although they can be grown outdoors, right? And like I scour the internet and I know who has propagated these roses and is growing them outdoors in their garden. And like some diehards do, and they're not selling the plants, so like honestly, who cares? But it's nothing I would ever do because I am too public and that it's not legal. So these roses are bred for a very small handful. And when I say handful, I mean like literally a handful of growers around the world to grow for cut flower production. And David Austin licenses these varieties to them, and then these growers pay a royalty per stem sold. So now we have these roses on our website. We do not grow them because they have to be grown in very specific climate controlled environment, which I'll get into. But so every stem that we sell on our website to you, David Austin makes a royalty, which is how it should be. Like that is how the cut flower world, commercial flower world is that growers are licensed varieties and then they are paid, they pay the breeder a royalty per stem sold. Okay, so David Austin only has a really small handful of growers, and they have kept it that way because they want their roses to be very exclusive, and I'm talking about the wedding roses, these. And that is because they are, you know, unequivocally probably the most desirable wedding roses in the world for brides. Juliet, Kira, all of these gorgeous varieties. And that's one way they have kept their brand at this standard, right? And so they very, very closely, and I don't want to use the word police, but monitor the growing conditions and the product that comes from their growers. And we had talked very, very briefly about becoming a David Austin grower, but in California, we would have to have greenhouses that are both heated and cooled. And that takes a lot of energy. And to build the type of greenhouses that these would need to be grown in costs about $1 million per acre of greenhouse, not including the land. And we looked into this extensively, you know, like the whole reason that we actually got into these cut rose varieties, which we're now offering to you as plants, not the David Austins, but the others, is because Brian and I actually went down this very deep rabbit hole 3 years ago about transforming our business from outdoor cut garden roses to indoor garden roses, because the indoor varieties have a longer base life, right? They are bred to withstand shipping, freight, overseas travel. They are just a different breed of rose. Like I just showed you this Ashley, and Ashley is bred by Tantau, and it is technically a commercial cut rose. However, Tantau also has licensed it for outdoor growing to us so that we can offer it to you, because it's one that easily hybrids from indoor to outdoor, and you have a very, very similar product, indoor and outdoor. So the David Austin roses, we actually went down this long process of looking for our greenhouses to buy that were already built. And in California, the cannabis growers, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, or people will say this is propaganda, but it's not. The cannabis growers have taken over the greenhouses in California. And many flower growers have converted to cannabis. And so, because I mean, why would they grow stock or zinnias for whatever they were making per acre when they could grow cannabis? I mean, come on, it's profit. And moving from flower growing to cannabis growing is a pretty natural transition for flower growers. So, not a tough one. So, the only greenhouses that Ryan and I could find that were going to be available to us were ones that were within, I don't want to quote exactly the distance, but it was like within 400 or 600 feet of an establishment for families and children. So if it was like a Boys and Girls Club, or a school, or a church, or a library, or a park for children, then cannabis growers couldn't be in that greenhouse location. So we looked at this like really dilapidated property up in Carpinteria, actually, which is a huge greenhouse area of California, the Central Coast. next to Santa Barbara. And now, if some of you probably know this, when you drive through Carpinteria, it's just like skunk. I mean, it's just marijuana. All you smell is marijuana. And that used to all be flower growers back in the day. There are very few. There's some orchid growers, very, very few. And so we looked at these greenhouses to potentially be a David Austin grower or a grower of all of these cut roses. And I think the property alone was 4.5 million. And the greenhouses literally had to be torn down for us to grow there. They had to be torn down and rebuilt. Like there was no salvaging these greenhouses. I mean, they were like 50, 60 years old, dilapidated beyond dilapidated. So we would be looking at like a 20 to $30 million project minimum. And we would run out of space there. So, and that was because that property was literally across the street from, it was either a school or a boys and girls club. So no cannabis grower could move into that greenhouse. And the owner of that greenhouse, an old Dutch family that had come from Holland many years ago, they were looking to sell it because most of their business had converted to cannabis at this point, but that one location they owned, they couldn't convert to cannabis. So they wanted to sell it to, obviously, like somebody that could use it for something other than cannabis, like me, but I was not gonna spend 20 or $30 million to grow greenhouse roses because I couldn't sell them for enough. I couldn't compete with the growers south of the equator. I'd have to sell my roses for 5 to 8 times more. And I can't do that because my land and my labor and all my expenses would be so much higher. So the David Austin roses are only grown by a handful of growers. There's one in California, in Central California, and the rest are in Ecuador and Colombia. And there might be a couple in Kenya, or a big rose growing area for Europe. And that's it. And there aren't even any European growers at this point because the climate wasn't right for a couple of European growers that wanted to try to grow these roses. So, and so David Austin has very strict growing requirements for them, and they are only ever gonna be for commercial growers. I will never be able to sell a Constance rosebush to you or a Juliet rosebush to you because we work with David Austin on the cut rose side as vendors, or basically as providers of their roses. So, and then that leads me to another topic, which is the reason that we have sold off most of our David Austin garden roses, like Evelyn Munstead Wood, Jubilee Celebration, Princess Alex of Kent, Lady Gardner, Tranquility, Litchfield Angel, Sharifa Asma, Carding Mill, is because we are no longer growing those for cut flowers. So we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plants of each variety. We don't grow those as cut flowers anymore because we're working with David Austin as a provider of their legal cut garden roses. Their garden roses that are grown outdoors are not technically legal for flower farmers like myself to grow and cut and profit off of. Those plants are meant for home gardeners. So we are working with David Austin to offer their cut roses, which are the wedding roses, like Juliet, Constance, and so on. And we have sold our garden roses to you. And of course, I've kept some for my property to beautify my property and to continue to tell the story of those roses and continue to grow them because I love them. But we no longer are growing them for cut flowers. So I owned, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20,000 of those plants. And now we have sold them to you because for our business, they serve no purpose anymore because we're working with them on the other side of the business, which is their cut side. So anyway, so that's the David Austin story, and that leads me into like what makes these roses different. So here's Sabrina. So Sabrina, I mean, she looks like a lot of roses that you can grow in your garden, right? Like she's fluffy, she's airy, she's whimsical, she's a little peony looking, but she doesn't fall apart. And so the difference of an outdoor bred garden rose is that they are typically not bred for longevity, right? They're bred for their beauty in the garden, they're bred for fragrance, they're bred for color and form. But typically, and I know this because I've grown many for many years, they are not bred for cut flowers to be brought in the house and enjoyed for 5, 7, 9, 10 days, right? And being a flower grower myself, or a commercial flower grower, that was always the hardest part of our business, was that these people online, our customers, would see our beautiful roses and they'd say, oh my God, I want those, right? I want to buy those. So we would send them a bouquet. And because we only grew outdoor traditional garden roses, like heritage roses, they would fall apart in a couple of days and they didn't like to be shipped. Whereas these roses, the difference is they look just like your outdoor garden roses, but they ship and they hold. This is fully blown out. Look at this, fine. I mean, it's not going anywhere. They have the look. This is Sabrina before she's open. This rose looks a lot like Earth Angel, right? Earth Angel's a little whiter on the outside, but this rose will last 12 days. This rose was shipped to me, I got this rose yesterday on Saturday, so it was shipped on Thursday afternoon. It was probably cut Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's already 5 days old from when it was cut, okay? And I'm gonna have this in a vase for probably 10 days. So this rose will have a 15-day vase life. And you're never gonna get that from an outdoor traditional garden rose. Now, what is the pitfall of these? The pitfall is that most of them don't have a lot of fragrance, okay? And so there are so many gardeners, different shapes and forms and different types of gardeners, right? And some rose gardeners, all they care about is fragrance and beauty. They're like, I don't care if it lasts a day. I don't care if it blows away on the bush the minute it opens. I want to smell that rose. I want the fragrance of rose. And I get that. I love the fragrance of rose. I mean, my property is surrounded by garden roses, right? But I also, as somebody who is investing in, and take away the fact that I'm a cut rose grower, investing in my property and investing in my time, right? If I'm gonna be a rose gardener and I'm gonna plant these roses and I'm gonna care for them, I want to enjoy them, right? I want to enjoy them longer than a day or two on the plant or a day or two in a vase. Like, I have literally had this on my kitchen counter for 2 weeks, right? Yes, some of them are a little sad. But 2 weeks. Like, you will never, ever, ever, ever get that from our traditional outdoor garden rose, like the ones that Grace Rose Farm has always grown for the last 8 years. And so I started thinking, as a businesswoman and as a rose grower, I was like, well, why aren't I trying to grow the ones that last longer, but that look just like my outdoor roses, right? And then that's where we started to get into the whole, okay, let's look into greenhouses and growing in greenhouses. And it wasn't just the fact that the greenhouses were gonna, be a $20 to $30 million project, which we could never do. I mean, literally never do. I didn't want to be a big mass commercial rose producer. Like, that's not me and Ryan, right? And I said to myself, I'm like, even if like some, angel investor or somebody wanted to invest in Grace Rose Farm and make us this huge, cut rose grower in the United States indoors, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have 200 employees, and I don't want to do that. Like, that's not me, like, we had 40 employees at our last farm and it was a nightmare. Like, that's not who Ryan and I are. Ryan and I started this business as gardeners. We started it as a couple who enjoyed being in our garden together and growing roses. I shared the reels on our group and on Facebook of our backyard before we started in 2015, and what we turned it into in 3 months, right? Like, I love growing roses to make my property beautiful and to express myself and who I am, right? Like, just like decorating my house, it's decorating my property and my gardens. And that's what I love. I don't so much love like the manual labor of gardening, but I love the outcome, and I'm willing to do the manual labor because of the beautiful outcome, right? So we very quickly, not only because we couldn't financially afford to do the greenhouses, I really started to think about it, and I said, well, this is interesting. Okay, I'm gonna make a part 2 because we're already at 19 minutes. So I'm gonna stop this and I'm gonna restart.